right, everybody, it's time to move on with our new store and POS setup. Let's get started working on setting up our POS units. So we're going to work on hardware profiles, creating our registers, our devices, and getting ready for the installation of the POSs to my computer that I'm using here. So here I am back in our same environment, same company of USRT for our Microsoft demo data. Let's get started with hardware profiles. And we're actually going to create two hardware profiles. One that's going to be used by my Store Commerce app because I do want to print some receipts. I'm going to be printing them to PDF for this demo instead of an actual hardware printer. And then the other one for my Store Commerce for web, I'm just going to set it to have no printing just to make it easier for us and so we don't get any weird errors when we're trying to use that particular POS. So let's start with the last one I just talked about, the one that has no hardware profile information going on for it, for our Store Commerce for web. And I usually call that one None. And it looks like there's already one here called None, so I'll just click on it. And the only thing I did to make this is I clicked New, gave it a profile number of None and a description of None, and that's it. Nothing else in any of these fast tabs is filled in. They all have defaults of this none, 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 all of that. And that's exactly what I want for my Store Commerce for web. So that's done. So for our next one, I'm going to create PDF3. So I'm going to click New up here, give it a name of PDF3, PDF Writer Only Demo. And in this one, all I'm going to do is put in some information on this first printer here. You can have two printers going on in a given hardware profile. Say one is the printer for your receipts, and then printer 2 might be an actual 8.5 by 11 printer that you can use for packing slips that print from the POS, etc. I'm just going to do this first one, and I am going to use the PDF writer that's already installed on my particular laptop. So let me bring up my printers window for this particular computer I'm on. I'm just going to go down to my windows and bring up printers and scanners, and let me pull it over here so y'all can see it. This is what I'm looking for right here. Microsoft Print to PDF. And I'm going to make all these fields here, device, make, model, and description, match this exactly, including the case, including the spaces. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing I have to do whenever I want to use a PDF writer on my laptop is say that the printer value right here is going to be Windows driver. If you're working with actual hardware, you're probably going to do OPOS or something like that. But I'm going to do Windows driver so I can use the PDF writer. And it's going to be called Microsoft Print to PDF, right? Microsoft Print to PDF. Let's just make sure that looks exactly the same. And it does. So I'm just going to copy that to make, model, and description. For the receipt profile ID, I'm just going to use the default one that I already have set up here in my environment. And for these final three here, character set 850, binary yes, and then document insert and removal. Those are really kind of more used for your actual hardware printers, but I go ahead and continue to use them when I'm setting up my PDFs as well. So now I'll save that. So I have PDF 3 and None to use for my future setup. Now let's go create our registers. So let's go to the form called registers. There it is. And let's just make sure I don't have any Denton registers yet, because that's our store we're setting up. None yet. Okay, excellent. So let's create some new stuff. Click New, and then let's call this Denton 1. Give it a name of Denton SCA Register 1. And then for the store, we're going to look for our Denton store that we had set up before. There it is. Hardware profile. So this is going to be our Store Commerce. I'm going to put that in the description here. Store Commerce app. So we're going to use that PDF3 that I created. And for the visual profile, I'll use one of the out-of-the-box demo data ones that I like, F3MP. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to leave this value set to no because I don't want the register to log off after every transaction when I'm working on it here for my demo. But if that's a requirement for your actual store and your environment, you can turn that on. And then the timeout is used if you don't have it log off after each transaction. The timeout value is what's going to automatically log off the POS when it's being setting idle. And so whenever I'm working out in the field in a store, usually the regs that are closer to where there's a lot of foot traffic going on maybe, or has a high shrink area or just a non-secure area, I'll set this value really low, like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, to make sure that if somebody walks away from the reg and forgets to manually log off, that it will do it for them. Just a little extra security measure. But then those regs that are maybe in the back of the store or the ones that are in the back room, I set to a really high timeout value so that the people using those don't have to keep it as secure perhaps and can more easily get in to do the work they need to do without logging in all the time. So for my demo one, I'm just going to put it up at 60 minutes because it's just me here at my POS. Nobody else is here. And that's it. That's all I'm going to set here. I don't need to worry about the screen layout because we're going to do that on the store level later on. You can do screen layouts at 3 different levels and each kind of trumps the other. You can set the screen layout, how it's going to look at the store. That's the highest level, or basically the most broad level. The next one up is this one here. At a given register, you can say, use this screen layout. And then the most granular one is you can say for this particular POS user, use this layout. So it can be very specific and pretty useful actually if you want the one in the front of the store to have a certain look and feel and certain menu options available, but then the one in the back room where they're doing all the shipping have the shipping and receiving screens be more prominent, right? You can do that by reg. And then the default one is the store for everybody if the register and user aren't specified. And let's say you have a user who needs the icons slightly larger, right? So then you can do a specific screen layout and assign that layout to their user. So that's the story on screen layouts. So this one, we're just going to go with the store default, so I'll just leave that blank here. And I don't need to fill in any financial dimensions, FinDims I like to call them, so I'll leave those blank. You might for your particular project. So we're good to go. So I'm just going to save that entry there. And now since I'm already sitting here, I'm going to do another entry like this for my store commerce for web. So I'm going to capture the name I used for the Reg 1 and let's do Reg 2. So I'm just going to create a new one. We're going to call it Denton 2. Store commerce for web, Reg 2. Do our Denton store. And then the hardware profile for this one, remember, is this is the web-based one. I didn't want any hardware profiles attached, but I did create one that said none, so I don't have to get any weird errors later. So I will choose none. And then let's use that same visual profile, F3MP. We'll do the same timeout, nothing else down here, click Save, good to go. If you want, you can click the configuration status up here. We've pretty much entered all we needed. The fields highlighted in kind of that red were telling us what needed to be done. A lot of the screens in Commerce have these little config checkers, and so you can check it out if you want. It needed a store, it needed a hardware profile, and a visual profile. So we've done that, so that's good. Just makes us have a good, nice, fuzzy feeling. Okay, so now we've got that. I'm just going to open up a new window here. I just duplicated my window. And let's go to devices, because that is something you have to set up for each reg as well. So here we are, devices. And they go hand in hand, registers and devices. So let's create our first one for our store commerce app. So I'm going to click New. I like to give my device IDs and my register IDs the same number so that I can be sure that when I attach the reg, it makes it real easy to find what I'm looking for. Again, that's just my kind of convention that I like to follow. You can choose what you like, but I'm going to call this one Denton 1. And this one says, okay, so what is this POS? What kind is it? So it wants you to tell it, is it a store commerce app, which is what this little guy is right here, Or is it Store Commerce for Web, which in the version I'm sitting on right now, they still called it Retail Cloud POS. That's the old name for Store Commerce for Web. So those will be my two choices. The other ones here are Retail Modern POS, all these others right like this. Those are referencing the slightly older version of the Store Commerce app, which was called MPOS or Modern POS. So you really don't need those anymore. We're just going to stick with this one or this one. So the first one is a Store Commerce app, and it wants to know what register do you want to tie this to. So let's look for Denton 1. There it is, Store Commerce app. Give it a description. Let's see, that description I still had in from the reg. That's awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to save this. That's my first device. So now let's create our second device. So I'll click New again, call it Denton 2. This one is going to be that Retail Cloud POS. Really probably down the line is going to say Store Commerce for Web, I would imagine, but that's what we're going to choose now. And it says, what register do you want to tie this to? Has to be my second one. You can only attach one reg to one device. We put in our description. Again, I kind of already had this in my notepad. And there we go. So we've got our two registers created. We've got our two devices created and hooked up to the registers. We're going to do the validation part later on whenever we've already filled out some other stuff for our store. Because if I tried it now, I'd get a little error message saying a bunch of stuff is missing. So just remember, we're going to come back later on and validate these devices, kind of like one of our last steps. And if you're saying like, hold up, Mel, like, why do we have to do a register? Why do we have to do a device also? Like, what's the deal? So the register is kind of what's controlling how the thing is going to work, what it's going to look like, what the hardware it's attached to, maybe some of the EFT settings that you have going on your credit card payment device, the logout stuff, all of that kind of information. You can even attach specific IP addresses to it that you might be needing for payment devices you have hooked up. So that's what's going on in the reg. In the device, this is what says, okay, for this POS unit, what really is it? Is it a Store Commerce app? Is it a Store Commerce for Web or CPOS? Or is it one of the old school MPOSs? Is it an Android thing? Like, what is the essence of this thing? That's what the device is doing. And then you hook up the device to the reg with this little field right here. So that's a little lowdown on registers and devices for you. Okay, just a small little public service announcement here. If you already had a Store Commerce for Web or CPOS activated on your particular computer for this environment, when you go and try to use it for another store, you're going to have to deactivate it and activate it again. Now I can tell by looking here that my particular one, I don't have to worry about that because it's having me go through the activation process. Like it's ready, it's brand new, its memory has been wiped basically, and it's ready for a new identity. But if you brought up the link for your CPOS and it had the login screen and it was pointing towards a specific store, you will have to deactivate and activate that with the little hamburger icon at the top. And I'll come back and show that to you later whenever we get logged in and ready to go, just so you can see where that button is. Hamburger meaning 3 horizontal lines. And if you had the old MPOS installed on your laptop, or maybe you already have Store Commerce app installed on your laptop, just go ahead and uninstall all that so you can have a clean slate. So let's check out and see if I've got that going on. So I'm going to look for, on my computer, I'm just going to search for add or remove programs. In this search box right here, I'm going to type in POS and see what comes up. All right, cool. So I've got the Monroe OPOS CCOs installed, which is awesome. I'm just going to leave that there. I'll need that down the line anyway, but I don't have any other POS apps installed, which is great. So now both of my particular POSs, I'm at a blank slate to go forward. Okay, let's move right along. So let's publish the channel attributes for our new store. That is a requirement. Whenever you're setting up a brand new store, you have to do this publishing of channel attributes. Or whenever you go to use your POS, it's going to get mad at you and throw an error at you. So let's go to channel categories and product attributes. There we go. And over here on the left is one of our organization hierarchies. Remember that when we attached our news store? We attached ours to the fashion node. So I'm just gonna smush these guys down and find our store. Here we are. I'm gonna click on it and let's expand all this little stuff so you can see what's going on here. The first thing I need to check is there a category hierarchy defined for my store in this screen? And there is not, and there won't be when you create a brand new store, but you need one. And so if you click the little drop down here, these are your choices. These are all of the hierarchies available to use for this purpose. So there's a hierarchy purposes form where you can say which hierarchy is going to be used for what. And then for this particular screen, these are the ones marked to be used as the channel product attributes, the main driving hierarchy on that POS. So I'm going to use the fashion navigation hierarchy. So when you log into the POS, you can click on a button on the left-hand side that shows a hierarchy of all the items, and you can drill in and find an item and click on it and pick it instead of scanning it. That's what's driving this right here, and you have to have something. So I'll click save because I'm a saver. And then we need to publish the channel updates with this little button right here. So let's click that. I'm just going to go ahead and run this interactively. I can tell I'm doing that by having this batch processing set to no. If I wanted to run it in the background in batch mode, I'd set that to yes. But since I know this one runs pretty quickly, I'm just going to say run it interactively right now and hold up my screen while you're doing it. Click OK. Now let's do the process delivery modes and work on our assortments, because those are two more things we have to do for this store. So let's go to process delivery modes. There we go. It's automatically going to run it in batch. No other choice anymore. That's fine. Click OK. It kicks it off in batch mode. Let's go look at our batch jobs. And I'll look for my delivery modes job. Here we go. It's executing. And while that's executing, let's go ahead and work on our assortment. So I'm going to leave this screen up and just come over here to my other tab. Let's attach the assortments that the store is going to use. The assortments are the collection of products that that store will be able to sell, right? And so you could have one big old fat assortment containing every single item you sell, or you can chunk it up, however which way it makes sense for you. You can have an assortment for all of the shoes that you sell, an assortment for all the top, an assortment for all of your accessories, or you can even do it in more of a planogram style. Like if you have a shoe section in your store, you can say you have an 8-foot shoe section and a 16-foot shoe section and a 24-foot. And those different assortments hold different items. It all depends on how you want things set up. So let's go attach some of the base assortments to my new store by going to assortments. And there's 3 that I want to do. I have this AW Mall I want to attach. I've got this fashion one, and then this fab base one. So I'm going to click on the mall one to see its details and expand things a little bit. Here are the categories that are in that particular assortment. That's cool. I can actually already see that my store is part of this because this particular assortment has the hierarchy of retail stores by type Fabricam and the whole node of mall set to use this assortment. And since I put my store in that node previously, I'm good to go on this one. Let's go back and look at our fashion assortment. Same thing here. That same hierarchy and the mall node already have this inherited. Awesome, good to go. Don't need to do that. So I'll go back. And let's look at this fab base one. So this one looks like I'm gonna have to attach my store directly to this. And that's fine, let's make it happen. So let's click edit. We're gonna put this back into draft. This assortment is gonna go to draft mode. Right now it's published. That's fine. Now we're in draft mode, see that? And then I will add a line for my store. So here's the hierarchies that I could use to help find my store. It doesn't really matter, it's just as long as you know where your store is attached. That works just fine. Here's mine fashion. Click the little arrow to make it go into the right-hand side. That's the one I'm going to be putting in. So click OK. There's my Denton store. I like to save, so I'll click Save. But we have to publish this for it to take effect. So I'm going to click Publish right up here. Are you sure you want to publish? Yes, I am. Now we're back in published mode, and the process assortments job has been kicked off, but just for this assortment. So there is another form where you can kick off that same process assortments job for all assortments. But right now it's just doing this one, which is fine. Let's go back and look at our process delivery modes job. So I'll refresh right here. And it looks like it finished because it threw it to the end. Here I am. It is done. How about our assortments job? So let's look. Here's the one I just kicked off. It's done. So it kicked off the retailer assortments job for just the one assortment. That's cool. But I want to run that job for all assortments so I can make sure it's going to hook up that main retail hierarchy that I assigned when we did the channel attributes, and to make sure it catches all of the assortments anyway. So let's go up to process assortments, and look, it knows that I want to go there already. Process assortments. Let's do it in batch and just keep it that same name. I can always put my initials in here if it's easier for me to find the job that I kicked off. Click OK. Go into my batch jobs. All right, so there is my job executing. So let's give it some time to finish. All right, my job, I clicked refresh, and it is now done. So there we go. Assortment's done, delivery modes are done, we're good to go. All right, so let's stop there and come back in our next episode where we will finish out our setup for our store and start getting our POSs installed. See y'all later.